There are moments when life forces us to stop, not because we are weak, but because we've wandered too far from who we truly are. If you've ever lost your peace, if you've ever fallen in the silence of loneliness, remember this. It's not the end. It's an invitation to begin again. This journey isn't about chasing happiness elsewhere. It's about learning how to return to yourself. There are days when we think we're happy. We wake up, smile at the mirror, and greet the morning believing everything is fine. But somewhere deep inside, there's an emptiness, a quiet ache we can't quite name. Then one day, everything collapses. Love fades. The job disappears. Friends who once said, "We'll always be together," slowly drift away, like mist after a rainy afternoon. Min was once like that too. A young man full of dreams, believing happiness meant having it all. A career to be proud of, a lover to lean on, and a crowd ready to applaud when he stepped forward. But when all of that was gone, Min finally saw the truth. He had placed his soul in someone else's hands. He lived to be accepted, not to be at peace. He smiled on the outside, while inside was nothing but an endless hollow. One night, in a dim room under a soft yellow light, Min sat alone, holding a cup of cold coffee. He stared into the quiet darkness and whispered to himself, "Why did I lose my peace? In the very place I thought I was happy." No one answered, only the sound of rain tapping gently against the window. But deep within, a small voice rose, soft yet powerful enough to shake his heart. "Because you keep looking for happiness in the place you lost it." Min sat in silence for a long time. It felt as if the world itself had paused for that truth to sink in. He realized that all along, he'd been chasing happiness in other people's eyes, in applause, in approval, forgetting that real happiness was never out there. It had always been within him, the part of himself he had abandoned long ago. That night, Min turned off his phone. He sat still and took a deep breath. For the first time in years, he didn't pretend to be strong. He just sat there, bare, fragile, but real. And in that fragile honesty, he knew something had begun. A new journey. No longer a chase for success, but a quiet return to himself. A journey of silence, of forgiveness, and of learning to love again the person he once left behind. After that long night, Min left the city. He told no one, just carried a small backpack, a few books, and a heart heavy with quiet sorrow. He wasn't running away. He was searching for something he hadn't heard in a long time. The sound of his own voice, on the bus out of town, dawn spilled through the window. The first rays of sunlight reminded him, the sun rises every morning, but not everyone dares to begin again. Min arrived in a small village, a place of open fields, gentle hills, and a silence so deep it felt sacred. He rented an old wooden house with a weathered chair on the porch. Every morning, he sat there watching the fog lift from the fields, learning to breathe again, slowly, deeply, and truthfully. One afternoon, he met an old man reading by the fence. The man wore a faded brown shirt, his eyes kind yet sharp, as if he'd already seen every story the world could tell. When he noticed Min, he smiled and said softly, "You know, without confidence, a person is like a bird without wings." Min stayed quiet, listening. And sometimes, silence is the only way to hear your soul speak. Those words touched something deep inside him. For years, Min had lived in the noise of the world. responding, arguing, proving, persuading, but never truly listening. Not to others, not even to himself. The old man closed his book and gazed toward the fading sun. Don't rush to believe what people say. Watch how they live instead. Because sometimes truth isn't bitter. It's just the way people say it that makes it hard to swallow. That day, Min said nothing more. He bowed respectfully and walked home, carrying something strange within him. Peace. A kind of peace that doesn't come from comfort or kind words, but from the silence that follows when the heart finally stops screaming. That night, Min opened his journal and wrote, "Today, I learned my first lesson. Silence isn't weakness. Silence is strength without the need to prove itself." For the first time, he smiled at himself. A real smile. The kind that comes when you finally begin to understand life. In the days that followed, Min's life grew quiet, as gentle as the breath of dawn. No noise, no questions. Just him and himself. Each morning, he rose before the sun, brewed a cup of black coffee, and opened his old notebook. He wrote down small, simple things. Yet each word carried more strength than all the advice he'd ever been given. Tomorrow, I'll wake up on time. I won't lie to myself. I won't complain, not even once. Tiny promises. But for Min, they were the only way to rebuild the trust he had lost with himself. He realized, every time we break a promise to ourselves, we clip our own wings. And every time we keep one, no matter how small, we grow a new feather. Day by day, Min learned to fly again. Not to soar above others, but to rise higher than the man he was yesterday. He started working at a small bookshop in the village. Every afternoon, he arranged old books on the shelves, breathed in the scent of yellowed pages, and felt a strange, quiet peace. One day, a little boy asked him, "Mister, why do you work so hard and still smile?" Min smiled softly and replied, "Because I know work never betrays us. We only betray ourselves when we give up too soon." The boy laughed and ran off, and Min stood there listening to the wind whisper through the window frame. His heart felt lighter, cleansed. He understood then. True strength isn't in the outcome. It's in every day you choose to rise, even when no one's watching. Each night, he looked up at the sky, watching birds glide across the dark like silent reminders. No bird is born knowing how to fly. It must fall. It must hurt. It must learn to trust its own wings. And Min smiled, whispering into the wind, "So am I. I'm learning to fly again, in my own way." That night, he slept deeply. For the first time in years, he dreamed he had wings. One late afternoon, as the last rays of sunlight fell across the porch, Min received a message. It was from her, someone from the past. She wrote simply, "I miss the old days. Can we be friends again?" His heart trembled. All the memories he thought had long fallen asleep rose again like a sudden storm. The love, the laughter, the arguments, and the moment she left without a word. He tightened his grip on the phone. For a brief moment, he wanted to reply, to go back, to believe that maybe this time would be different. But then, he looked around the small room. The space built by his solitude, his pain, and his quiet persistence. He realized something. Going back isn't the same as healing. Going back means returning to the place where he once lost himself. Min took a deep breath and typed slowly, each word firm yet gentle. "It's not that I hate you. I just don't want to go back to the place where I lost myself. He set the phone down. His heart ached, but it was the kind of pain that felt like freedom. That night, Min sat on the porch, staring into the dark sky. The wind slipped through his fingers, cold and quiet, yet inside him burned a small flame, the fire of understanding. He remembered the old man's words, "Peace begins when expectation ends," and for the first time, he truly understood. Peace doesn't come from having someone beside you. It comes from no longer needing them to stay. Forgiveness isn't about who deserves it. It's about knowing you deserve to be free. Min closed his eyes, let his body soften, and allowed the past to fall away, like the last leaf of an old season. When he opened his eyes, the wind had calmed, and within him, the emptiness was filled with light. He no longer needed to prove anything. He didn't need to be right, or to win. He just needed peace, because he finally knew. When you're strong enough to release the darkness, the light will find its way to you. As time passed, Min continued living in that quiet little village. No more restless dreams, no more fear of being forgotten. Just him, the silence, and the steady return of his own heartbeat. Every day, he greeted the sunrise with gratitude. He wrote down 3 things that made him smile, no matter how small. A warm cup of coffee, a hello from the neighbor's little boy, or simply the gift of being alive for one more peaceful day. From those small moments, Min realized, maturity doesn't come with age. It comes from the pain you've learned to face with a smile. He spoke less now. He no longer needed to prove he was right, no longer needed to win an argument, because he finally understood. Silence is stronger than the need to be understood. One morning, the bookshop owner said to him, "You're doing well, Min. Thank you for not just working, but for spreading peace." Min smiled, bowed slightly, and replied softly, "I'm just doing what I can. Work is the way I stay true to myself." When he received a raise, he didn't think of buying new things. Instead, he quietly set aside a portion to fund scholarships for children in the village. He didn't tell anyone. He didn't boast. He just felt an unfamiliar lightness in his heart. He remembered a quote he once read, "When God blesses you financially, don't raise your standard of living, raise your standard of giving." And he believed, that's how a soul becomes truly rich. In the late afternoons, Min would sit by the window, reading while the sunlight stretched across the fields. Life was no longer a race. It was a journey of understanding. He learned to be grateful even for the things that didn't go his way, because they were the lessons that shaped his calmness today. One evening, as the sunset painted the sky, Min wrote in his journal, "Everything that comes into our lives has a reason. Sometimes God doesn't give us what we want, because He knows we deserve something greater." And he smiled. Not a dazzling smile, but one gentle enough to light up the entire sunset within his heart. Many years passed. Time had taken Min's youth, but in return, it had given him a peace that youth could never understand. One morning, he returned to the city, the place that had once broken him. The streets were still crowded. The car horns still screamed like they always had. But Min was different now. No more heartbeat trembling with fear. No more feeling lost in a sea of people. He had learned to walk slowly, to look deeply, without letting the world sweep him away. He stopped by the old cafe. the one where he used to sit with the woman he once loved, the same place where he had cried through a night of goodbye. The table was still there. The coffee still carried that same comforting scent. Only he had changed. Min sat down, opened his old notebook, and wrote slowly, deliberately, "I no longer fear losing anyone. I only fear losing myself while trying to please everyone." Those words felt like the closing of a chapter filled with tears, but also filled with grace. Because without those losses, he would have never learned how to love himself again. He looked around. Strangers passed by, each carrying their own untold story. And Min realized, we are all walking the same road, searching for the way back to ourselves. The only difference is how brave we are in facing it. He stood up and walked out of the cafe. The morning breeze brushed gently through his hair. Sunlight touched his shoulders like a quiet welcome home. No one knew what he had been through, but he knew. The journey had changed him. He was calmer now, more understanding, more at peace. He looked up at the sky and smiled. A simple smile, but one that carried a quiet depth. Inside, he heard again the voice that once whispered to him in the darkest night. Don't search for happiness in the place where you once lost it. Now he understood it completely. Because true happiness doesn't live anywhere else. It lives within the heart that has finally made peace with itself. And so, Min, the one who was once lost, had finally found his way home, not to a place, but to the heart of who he truly was.